feel it when you're in the crowd, but there are people going like almost all the way back to the Lions. It's incredible. I'd firstly like to thank Nottingham Ukrainian Centre, in particular Michael and Oksana Holod, for their organisation of this, and also Notts Trades Council for all the work that you've put into this and providing the sound system. I'm here today speaking on behalf of my fellow Nottingham MPs, Lillian Greenwood and Alex Norris, who are also here, and on behalf of the whole of the Labour Party. We stand with you in complete solidarity, and we stand with the people of Ukraine as they defend their right to self-determination and to democracy. We also stand with the people of Russia, it's not in their name that this war is being waged, and many of them are taking to the streets to protest against Putin's regime, and we should be offering them sanctuary in the UK, as well as any Ukrainian person who wants it. Last week in Parliament, I asked Boris Johnson, after the Polish government had been preparing to take up to 1 million Ukrainian refugees, urging him to do the same. And I promise that we will continue doing that in Parliament, and we will continue demanding that the UK government waives all visa restrictions on Ukrainians, that it works with international partners to establish a resettlement programme from third countries, and that it implements the toughest possible sanctions, including banning Russia from SWIFT. No matter who the person is, whether it's a Conservative Party donor or not, dirty Russian money is not welcome in this country, and our government must crack down on it. Слава Україні! Слава Україні!
Where is she? Have we got Elena here? Helena. Helena. Is Helena here? Yeah. Okay. Do you want me to? Well, while Helena is on her way up, my colleague here, Pete Radcliffe, who probably from the Labour movement side or whatever, Nottingham people who have been involved in this, has probably played as much of a role as trying to make sure we stood by Ukraine as anyone else. He's written something down. You may have noticed when he spoke that he's a bit croaky today. He's been doing far too much shouting than is good for him at his tender age. Okay, anyway, this is what Pete has to say. The protest here today in this town is a weapon, our weapon, to defeat Putin. Putin and his former KGB cronies, mostly now billionaire oligarchs, have made their fortunes largely from gas and oil and the deals they make internationally. They own substantial parts of London and make fortunes there as well. They will know that these protests, our protests, will increase pressure on the government to stop the collaboration with the oligarchs that has gone on for far too long. Putin and his oligarchs also know that such protests as ours can give hope to the Ukrainian people that they are not alone. And please, all of you, be in contact with friends, and also those in contact with friends in Ukraine, let them know that Nottingham stands with all of them. Putin also knows that our protests will also spur the Russian people into organising against Putin. The Russian Federation 13 months ago was shaken by revolts from Khabarovsk in the east near Japan through Irkutsk and Siberia to Moscow and St. Petersburg against Putin's attempts to murder one of his opponents. Tens of thousands took to the streets, connecting together building networks that could be challenged the output of the press that Putin controls in Russia, such as Russia Today. In Russia, there has already been an astonishing amount of protests over the last week. On Monday, there were just individual solidarity protests. They have grown every day. Now hundreds, sometimes thousands, take to the streets against Putin. And we should remember, in Russia, where Putin poisons and imprisons those who oppose him, it's brave, very brave, to come out onto the streets there. In Belarus 2 years ago, Lukashenko, Putin's poodle, now completely under Putin's control, rigged the election. A revolt lasting months, with strikes, street confrontations, which the state police broke up, but they felt alone and the revolt was dissipated. This is a time when all revolutionary democrats in these Eastern European countries might stand together and with the Russian anti-war movement standing against Putin to bring the tyrant down. But the battle against removal of democratic rights and brutal invasions is a global one. Our own rights of protest are under attack by the current government in Britain. We have friends here too from Hong Kong, where the Hong Kong government, under the control of Putin's friend Xi Jinping, have imprisoned hundreds of those who demanded democracy in their own battle in 2019. The Chinese regime now threatens to invade Taiwan, where many Hong Kongers have fled. It's also the case that the Chinese regime has been silent in relation to condemning Putin and his invasion of Ukraine. The threats against us are international, and we have to fight back internationally, bolstered up by each other's courage. It now looks at long last that Western governments will take more serious action against Russian oligarchs, who build and accumulate their fortunes primarily in the City of London. That is a good development and one we should all welcome. But the oligarchs have bedded themselves into the wealthy sections of British society and into British political life. They've got a lot of friends in the Conservative Party in particular. They are still there making financial threats. And we have to build up a movement that exposes what they're up to and make sure that the government does not go back to taking their money and doing deals with them whilst Putin conducts his war or even remains in power. I will be frank, I don't like NATO. I don't trust NATO. Many of the countries that are powerful in it, such as Britain, have a terrible history themselves of brutal invasions and occupations of countries where they were not wanted. I think nuclear arms that surround any country run by a tyrant help bring down that tyrant. No, you mean it doesn't help bring down that tyrant. So I misread. It's not just his voice that's croaky this morning, his hand was obviously croaky when he was tapping into his phone. But this war is not about NATO. This is Putin's war, and Putin's lies that have generated it. NATO did not invade the Baltic states of Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia. Those countries agreed to join. Why? Because of Putin's hostile actions and threats to his neighbours. If we want to disarm the competing nuclear powers, that task has got to go hand in hand with removing Putin from power. If NATO is prepared to give the Ukrainian people better weapons, then good. It should give them unconditionally and without cost. But the Ukrainian people must be in control. They cannot afford to be the playthings of big powers. I speak as someone who detests war, but Putin will not stop this horrendous war by himself. He has to be defeated wherever possible using peaceful means, civil disorder, etc., strikes and so on. But he has to be defeated by brave Ukrainians also fighting back and they should have our support. Finally, this appalling Tory government that brought us Brexit. I missed that. I missed something there. And solidarity, absolutely solidarity with all Ukrainians. Finally, what Pete says is, what do we want? We want Putin out, and we want freedom for Ukraine and for Ukrainians the world over. Right, have I got Elena? Is it Elena?